This is the 2017 AP English Language and Composition Rhetorical Analysis FRQ. We have 40 minutes in which to read, annotate, plan, and write our response for this question. The passage below is the opening to a speech made in 1960 by American journalist and politician Clare Boothe Luce to journalists at the Women's National Press Club. In this speech, Luce went on to criticize the tendency of American press to sacrifice journalistic integrity in favor of the perceived public demand for sensationalist stories. Read the passage carefully. Then, in a well-developed essay, analyze how Luce uses this introduction to prepare the audience for her message. Support your analysis of her rhetoric with specific references to the text. So we need to analyze how Luce uses this introduction to prepare her audience for her message, and her message is going to criticize the tendency of the press to sacrifice integrity for sensationalism. So I'm just going to write her message. Just so I remain clear, I'm not being asked what her message is. I'm being asked how she uses rhetorical techniques in this introduction that we are about to read and annotate to prepare her audience for her intended message. So let's go ahead and read through. I am happy and flattered to be a guest of honor on this always exciting and challenging occasion. But looking over this audience tonight, I am less happy than you might think and more challenged than you could know. I stand here at this rostrum invited to throw rocks at you. You have asked me to tell you what's wrong with you, the American press. The subject not only is of great national significance, but also has, as one should say, infinite possibilities and infinite perils to the rock thrower. So really a lot happening here, lots of diction and lots of inversion or juxtaposition. So happy and flattered, but then less happy, challenging here, and more challenged. So we're gonna write diction / inversion. And then also some juxtaposition, the infinite possibilities versus the infinite perils. You'll also note a lack of inclusive language. This is the I/you. It's separatist language. It's used to create a little bit of distance, okay? For the banquet speaker who criticizes the weaknesses and pretensions or exposes the follies and sins of his listeners, even at their invitation, does not generally evoke an enthusiastic, no less a friendly response. The delicate art of giving an audience hell is always one best left to the Billy Grahams or the Bishop Sheens. So we have a reference here to televangelists or evangelicals whose speech were we read down here, widely broadcast on the radio. So that's something that we need to see, the reference here, and then the comparison or the analogy that's implied here. But you are an audience of journalists. There is no audience anywhere who should be more bored, indeed more revolted, by a speaker who tried to fawn on it, butter it up, exaggerate its virtues, play down its faults, and who would more quickly see through any attempt to do so. This is going to be interesting because I'm just going to put a question mark and put sensational, because isn't that what sensationalized stories do? And then that's saying that the audience should be revolted or bored by that. I ask you only to remember that I am not a volunteer for this subject tonight. You asked for it. So this is a reminder of her role. Okay. For what is good journalism all about? A rhetorical question there. On a working finite level, it is the effort to achieve illuminating candor in print and to strip away cant. It is the effort to do this not only in matters of state, diplomacy, and politics, but also in every smaller aspect of life that touches the public interest or engages proper public curiosity. It is the effort to explain everything from a summit conference to why the moon looks larger coming over the horizon than it does when it has fully risen in the heavens. It is the effort, too, to describe the lives of men and women, big and small, close at hand or thousands of miles away, familiar in their behavior or unfamiliar in their idiosyncrasies. It is, to use the big word, the pursuit of and the effort to state the truth. So tons of repetition here with effort. And the purpose here is we are defining true journalism, okay? And it's important to note there's a little bit of pathos here with the imagery that we evoke. We're also doing opposites, big and small, close at hand, thousands of miles away, men and women, familiar or unfamiliar. All of this is to not just show contrast, but also demonstrate the widespread goal of journalism, the widespread audience of journalists. Okay, it's a reminder of how great the purpose is of good journalists. All right. Moving on, no audience knows better than an audience of journalists that the pursuit of the truth and the articulation of it is the most delicate, hazardous, exacting, and inexact of tasks. Consequently, no audience is more forgiving, I hope, to the speaker who fails or stumbles in his own pursuit of it. The only failure this audience could never excuse in any speaker would be the failure to try to tell the truth as he sees it about his subject. So here we are invoking professionalism, okay? You're going to depend on the journalists in the audience to know that the pursuit of truth and the articulation of it are what are most important. Finishing up, in my perilous but earnest effort to do so here tonight, I must begin by saying that if there is much that is wrong with the American press, there is also much that is right with it. So once again, we are having that, that juxtaposition and that opposition, wrong versus right. I know then that you will bear with me, much as it may go against your professional grain, if I ask you to accept some of the good with the bad, even though it may not make such good copy for your newspapers. So this is a direct appeal to the audience. For the plain fact is that the US daily press today is not inspiringly good. It is just far and away the best press in the world. So a little bit of appeal to the audience there. Certainly the ego or the pride to say it's the best press in the world. Okay, so now in planning our response, we have to figure out how Luce is using her rhetoric in order to, and I'm going to switch colors just so I can make this clear once more, in order to prepare the audience for her message. How is she prepping? It's almost like, hey, let me make you comfortable and give you a nice, refreshing, cool lemonade before I tell you that, you know, I broke your favorite vase, something like that. That's what she's trying to do. So let's figure it out. We've got diction, inversion, creating distance, juxtaposition, some reference and analogy, using that sensationalist example here, and then reminding the audience of her specific role. The parallelism, more contrast, invoking professional attitudes, things like that. And then the direct appeal to the audience. So I think that what I'm going to look at here, I'm actually going to focus, even though there's only one rhetorical question, it is of vital significance because it enables Luce to go ahead and define exactly a reminder of what good journalism is and her purpose as the speaker at this, this meeting of the National Press Club, okay? So I'm going to put that in my working thesis. And I'm just going to say Claire Boothe Luce appeals to the audiences I think I'm going to say sense of professionalism. That might be too wordy when I actually put this in my response. But I want to say, we've lost control of the pen. Sense of professionalism using strategic juxtaposition, and rhetorical question, just going to put RQ, to prepare her listeners or her audience. I'm going to say listeners since I've already said audience, her listeners, for her criticisms of sensationalized media stories, journalists, etc. I think I'm gonna say of sensationalized stories. So it's just a working thesis. It's obviously rough, but it gives me an idea. Okay, this is essentially what I want to explore in my response. And of course, since it is the rhetorical analysis, we're looking at 4 paragraphs total. It's what we shoot for. Certainly, you're more than allowed to do more depending on your ability, skill level, timing, things like that. But you don't want to end up writing 5, 6, 7 paragraphs and then, oh, guess what? You ran out of time and you didn't even get to your final essay, the argument essay. So in putting this one together, let's see. First, we're going to do just juxtaposition. So body paragraph 1 will be juxtaposition. And then body paragraph number 2 is really going to be the purpose of the rhetorical question. And with juxtaposition, I'm going to talk about the constant inversions or opposites. And what I want to say about this, it demonstrates either the balance that she's trying to strike, on a complex issue. So I might be looking at the happy and challenged part in the very opening, where she says, you know, oh, I'm happy on this challenging occasion, but maybe I'm less happy and more challenged, something like that. I might do the possibilities / perils. That might be another thing to look at. And I might look at, let's see, maybe even the idea that you would be revolted with the bad media. If I go back just so you see where I'm looking, that would be this paragraph here, lines 18 through about 25. You would be revolted if you had a speaker who tried to fawn, butter it up, exaggerate its virtues. And so that might be something to do here. You might even look at this part here, not a volunteer, but was actually a guest. And so I'm going to put not volunteer, but invited guest. These are all just some ideas that I'm looking at for my juxtaposition. Even just using these 2 up here alone from that very opening, that might be quite enough to really get into depth and talk about how she's using these inversions to really demonstrate that there's a lot at hand. I think personally, I would stick to these 2, and then rather than focusing on these smaller ones, I would actually jump to about line 36, so I'll put 36 so you can see, where we also demonstrate how invaluable the journalist is, because the journalist serves big and small, familiar and unfamiliar, near or far, all of those ideas, and the fact that we're juxtaposing those opposites so that we demonstrate how important it is that if journalists are going to serve public information, that they serve it with, and let's go back just so you can see, so we can serve it with journalistic integrity as opposed to sensationalist stories. I do like to borrow verbiage from the prompt, and I would certainly use those 2 phrases in that body paragraph. Okay, it demonstrates that I have control of the task at hand. I know what's being asked. I know what message I'm looking at. So just an idea for you guys. Okay, so jumping over to the body paragraph on the rhetorical question. I would open by saying something, though Luce only asks one rhetorical question, it is one which enables her to define the duties and responsibilities of journalistic integrity. Okay, that's what I would do. So you want to make sure that you know, even though it's 1, it's incredibly important because she spends the remainder of her introduction preparing her audience that, hey, if we're going to be good journalists, we have to do these things. And so please, you know, don't be mad at what I say, because you invited me here to go over the things. So I would use that rhetorical question, and then I would say focus. So let's just put rhetorical question 1, but sets up the definition of journalistic integrity. And then we're going to focus also on how she answers the rhetorical question. She uses that parallelism, the effort, to define what good journalists do. And then we're also going to talk about that good journalists really have to have that pursuit of truth. Okay. And then as she concludes the answer to the rhetorical question, she uses those appeals to her audience. She makes that appeal that take the good with the bad. There's so much right with the American press. It's far and away the best press in the world. Things like that. Now, you might notice that even though our main focus is the rhetorical question, we're talking about some repetition, some diction, some appeals here. So that might be something where in your topic sentence or right after your topic sentence, you really need to address that even though there's just one rhetorical question, the rhetorical question is used structurally to set up a definition of journalistic integrity, an appeal to the audience, and a demonstration of the need to have that pursuit of truth, okay? So you wanna just make sure that you set up that topic sentence or the sentence right after that so that your paragraph remains cohesive, okay? So we do need a counter argument and rebuttal, and there are any number of which you might select for yourself. But having read through the introduction, one of the things is that her intent is to ease the hostility or tension as she moves into her actual message. But you might say that if you look back at the open, she's almost a little accusatory, like you asked for it. So I'm gonna put, but comes off accusatory, and then I'm gonna put, remember, you asked for it. And I'm gonna actually use that direct quote there in my counter argument, but my rebuttal would be that she counters her caveat, her reminder, with so much positive diction about journalists and the job in general, that it's going to put her audience at ease and help them understand that she's not criticizing them. It's not a personal attack. It's rather an objective description of issues that exist when it comes to journalistic integrity. So there I would have my counter argument and rebuttal, okay? You might even link that counter argument back to the rhetorical question. You asked for it. Asked for what? Well, you asked me to talk about good journalism, and what is good journalism? Let's go over it. Let's review. All right, so you have your skeleton outline for your rhetorical analysis response. Good luck.